you wanna bet that I can get you back inside your head before the summer ends and spread a little love. Just for a little fun, I'll make you come back to me before the rise of every sun. Baby, it's meant to be, I know you got a man, but you don't understand. You're gonna be a heartbreaker. You're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette. 'Cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah.
Welcome to Inside the Numbers with the People's Pundit. And now here's your host, Rich Barris.
Welcome indeed to Inside the Numbers with the People's Pundit. I'm your host, Rich Barris, the People's Pundit. You can follow me on Truth and Getter at People's Pundit, on Twitter at People's_Pundit. But of course, the best way to follow me is on Locals, peoplespundit.locals.com. Michigan voter analysis just went up. We talked about it a little bit on the show yesterday with Robert on What Are the Odds. A few things we talked about a little bit, which we will talk about more. We previewed some of the new public polling project that will be out today. I'll finish crunching it today, but I haven't had a chance to look at the new interviews that we saw overnight, which is about counting just under 300. So I'm curious to take a look at them, which we'll do together, and we will see whether or not, by the way, 80% completion rate on the phone. What? 80% for the size of the project. I know some of you were like, don't remove the registered voter economic confidence index. Don't remove the ethnicity origins, the details for white, Asian, Hispanic. And I didn't. And I'm glad I didn't, because we got them. We got them good. We did. Interest is clearly peaking. We'll take a look and we'll see if they match last night as far as everything else we're seeing. Look, folks, after about 2,000 interviews, you're generally safe to start at least inferring a few things from what you see. When you've been at it as long as I have anyway, I mean, you start to know, all right, well, the generic ballot looks like this, by education, maybe it's a little bit to this, maybe it's a little bit to that. So what does that mean for when the rate weights are applied, right? And how is that going to change party ID off of the raw? And remember, we will be looking when we peak, we will be looking at raw data. I'm going to look immediately before I show you anything at things like region, education. Forget about party, because party is for us what you can kind of consider. Let me use terms like people would understand from like their mortgage and stuff. Think of party as like a floating variable, okay? And as we wait for other variables, party will be adjusted. It is not that it is weighted for party. When, we weight by gender, ideology moves. So if it's, same thing with region, by the way. If we weight by region or area in some cases, but we typically don't for area. If you don't, you should have targeted area correctly so you don't have to touch it. If you do, maybe light weights. But for the most part, when you wait for other things, gender, age, race and ethnicity, education and geography, let's just say geography, then that will adjust everything else. So when you're looking at raw data, you should pretty much just don't ignore party, obviously, but it's not what it's going to be when the final product is all said and done. All right. Before we do that, however, I do think it's important that we look at, I was going to read one of them on What Are the Odds yesterday, but we didn't get a chance. It's just how Robert and I are. We banter back and forth. It's more like Crossfire, the old show Crossfire, than it is, like this staggered. We know what we want to deal with each segment, and it's like this, free for all back and forth. I want to read something that was written on October 1st, and take it into consideration with the Politico article that we highlighted on What Are the Odds last night. If you did not watch it, do yourself a favor and watch it, because what that essentially is an attempt to salvage to salvage reputations. So why did you have ridiculous generic ballot leads for Democrats in the summer, or ridiculous Senate leads in the summer? I'm going to play a video of someone, and he's going to talk about a little bit of the difference between 2014 and today. I want you to keep in mind, too, before we get into this article, I'll do this after. I want you to keep in mind that I would dispute the fact that 2014 moved and broke last minute in that way. I would argue that the research we were doing and the model, the fundamentals behind the PPD election projection model, 2014 was the year it debuted on the internet, and it outperformed everybody. 5 turd fake, all the rest of them. Larry Sabatos, tiny crystal balls, all the rest of them. We never saw Arkansas competitive. Tom Cotton was always going to beat Mark Pryor. Tom Tillis was going to beat, even though the public polls screwed up the model. That's why we separated them and changed them in 16. The public polls just got so bad that they were, speaking of weights, their weight variable in the model was too heavy. It was too significant. And in truth, the fundamentals were much better at predicting it. We were the only single survey that had Tom Tillis ahead. And we were right and everybody else was wrong. So that goes to show you how polls influence models that are too reliant upon polls. All right. But we would argue that it was always going to be a Tillis win, even though it was close. We never had the Kahagan plus 7 to 13s. It was always a relatively close election, and independents always seemed to want to vote all year long, wanting to vote Republican. They just, there's some bar you have to meet as a candidate. And once that happens, you should get those votes that you've kind of been measuring the entire year. The rest of it is response bias and narrative pushing and BS. All right. So keep that in mind when we play these, and then we'll talk about it a little bit more. Right. So this is written by, and Robert mentioned this yesterday on What Are the Odds? And we're going to talk about it now. Oh, let me get a little bit of water here. Betting against a blue wave. Now, keep into perspective. All right. Like, context is key here. Patrick Basham, who is the pollster for the Democracy Institute, who many of the same people who hate Patrick. All right. Give me 1 second. He wrote this, folks. All right. At a time when people were seriously considering and entertaining the idea that the House of Representatives would remain in Democratic control. Okay. You have all these new supposed election experts that pop up every year. You got to play whack-a-fraud with, and they were bashing the ABC News poll that came out a little bit later, had Republicans up by 5. One actually made the argument on his podcast that RCP should never have used the likely voter metric to put into their average, the RCP average. Instead, they did it because they're biased for Republicans, and the registered voter sample was a lot more favorable to Democrats. They should have used that. I don't know why they would at this point, because it's after Labor Day. You amateur, what are you, 10 years old? How long have you been at this? Are you maybe 18? This is your first election? Okay. And you're like an expert all of a sudden. This is a metric that Gallup started before you were even in your mommy's womb. And it's been something that pollsters have been doing for decades and decades and decades, following Gallup's lead. All right. But it is under the Trump era, which is probably when you came up. It is only under the Trump era where they started to do, things like this, play games with target populations and the samples that they would report. NBC News just in 2020 announced that they would not move to a likely voter model. What do you think they're doing? That is new, youngin'. That is new. All right. So Patrick at this point is arguing, betting against a blue wave. Okay. Democrats are likely to face insurmountable partisan, demographic, and policy challenges during the final weeks of midterm election campaigning. Democrats are channeling Mark Twain. Quote, "The reports of my death are greatly exaggerated." Twain informed America from his London sickbed in 1897. Fast forward 125 years, and we find many Democrats who believe their party's electoral obituary was prematurely written. Until midsummer, almost all pollsters reported a red wave would wash away the Democratic majorities in both houses of Congress. Our own Democracy Institute / Daily Express poll tracker, which in April began monthly surveys of 1,500 likely voters, consistently found an electoral environment highly favorable to Republicans. Now, we don't have to go back to our generic ballot trend. Do you know that back in April, Republicans were holding historically large leads on the generic ballot? These findings led us to conclude a red tsunami could possibly drown the Democrats, even to the point that the party would still be lost at sea several elections hence. Following a spring drenched with unattractive poll numbers for Democrats, mid to late summer changed everything. America's reliably unreliable mainstream academic and media polls started finding Democrats in newly competitive positions in contested House races and especially in open Senate seats. Many experts downgraded their forecasts from a red wave to a modest red ripple, even a mere red trickle. On August 19th, the New Yorker asked, "Is there a serious case for a not awful election for Democrats this fall?" By August 20th, The Hill headlined an article that read, "5 reasons Democrats' midterm chances are rising," followed by "Red wave hits breaker." On August 28th and August 30th, analysis from MB News found that, quote, "Republicans' hopes for a red wave are receding ahead of the 2022 elections," unquote. And by the way, folks, they're still doing this. 5-Turd Fake published an article yesterday about how the polls in Georgia had changed. They did it showing that, well, Warnock is clearly now in the lead. An hour later, Landmark Communications dropped a poll showing that it's a tied race with Warnock at 46, Walker at 46. Guess what? Warnock's going to lose. Let me let little Turd Boy in on a little secret. He's going to lose. It's a runoff state. Did you forget to check your notes, bro? All right, were you walking Fifi and you didn't check your notes? It's a runoff state. If an incumbent is at 46, he is going to lose in Georgia because guess what? Incumbents don't win runoffs in Georgia. Look it up. Maybe put it in your little model. Late August polls, such as The Economist, YouGov, America Survey, and let me just pause there. A lot of people have been commenting about how angry I've been sounding in the last week. You're damn right I'm angry. I am angry. I've been doing this for years. I'm going to save this little rant until after we're done. Late August polls, such as The Economist, YouGov, America Survey, which found an 8 percentage point Democrat lead, and Politico Morning Consult with a 5-point Democrat lead, stimulated dreams of a possible blue wave crashing ashore in November. The Democracy Institute's summer polling saw some wavering. Undecided Democratic voters returned to the partisan fold, thereby narrowing the gap between the parties. Does that sound familiar to any of you? Right? Our pre-Labor Day poll sound familiar? These returning Democrats, however, largely reside in overwhelmingly safe Democratic districts and states. Their net effect on competitive House and Senate races, therefore, will be minimal. The Democracy Institute's Labor Day poll, which coincided with the unofficial start of the general election campaign, found a 5-point Republican edge on the national generic congressional ballot. The lead may not appear arithmetically overwhelming. However, the Republican vote, both presidentially and congressionally, is a comparatively efficient vote. That is 100% true. As such, should the national vote tally produce a 5-point Republican advantage, the party will enjoy a very successful election. 4 years ago, the Democrats won the national vote by 8 points, gaining 41 House seats. In 2014, a 6-point Republican popular victory produced a 13-seat gain in the House. In 2010, a 7-point Republican win led to a gain of 63 House seats. Our current projection is a 44-seat gain in the House of Representatives for Republicans. Democrats are likely to face insurmountable partisan demographic and policy challenges during the final weeks of midterm election campaign. 3 partisan developments especially lengthen the Democrats' odds. First, a higher percentage of registered Republicans than registered Democrats will vote for their own party. While only 1 in 20 Republicans will be voting Democrat, 1 in 12 Democrats will vote Republican, given a national electorate almost equally divided in partisan terms. And we're going to see that in a bit. The Republican small advantage in party loyalty is valuable. Second, registered independents continue to favor the Republicans by a 16-point margin, which makes it unlikely for the Democrats to stay in power in the legislature. while it is possible to win the independent vote narrowly and still lose a national election, as Republican presidential candidate Mitt Romney accomplished in 2012, great job, Willard, it is close to impossible to maintain congressional and senatorial majorities if independent voters favor your opponent by double digits. And you know that because while Obama was reelected, Republicans barely lost anything in the House, right? And in the Senate, for that matter. Third, demographically, Democrats are actually in very bad shape. Republicans are unsurprisingly the party of choice for a majority of male voters and white voters. Surprisingly, perhaps, the Republicans are now also polling as the party of choice for a plurality of female voters and a majority of Hispanic voters. This is key because the Democrats will win the midterms only if they better the Republicans among female and Hispanic voters, 80% of whom are working class. Hispanics' pro-Republican swing, particularly among females and young males, is this election cycle's most significant development. I can't agree with that more. Hispanic women who have children are joining what we had seen with Hispanic men prior, and now we are seeing even younger Hispanic men move over. What Patrick is finding is actually very similar to what we have been showing you, not only in national polling, but in places like Nevada and Arizona, right? In Florida and Texas, and in the Central Valley in California. Counterintuitively, females are harder for Democrats to persuade this year. You think he's wrong? What did the New York Times poll in that Politico article say yesterday? Particularly independent women have swung hard against Democrats. Rising crime is a major factor, as evidenced by female gun ownership spiking upwards for the third consecutive year. Gun ownership is the single best predictor of voting for a Republican congressional candidate. Democrats' hopes also rest, as always, upon securing 90+% of black voters with heavy black turnout. Today, 1 in every 4 black voters say they will vote Republican. That's 25%. Now, that's not going to happen in reality, but as you have seen in some of our polling, Republicans do overperform in the polls with black voters typically, and one can argue why that is. It is the urban vote really what they portended to be. All right. But for the most part, we still have trends that we can see. And without a doubt, we can see that Republicans are more black voters are voting Republican. It's happening every year. Today, 1 in every 4, right? Anything approaching such an outcome would end Democrats' chances of retaining Congress. In the Senate, the Democracy Institute generic poll shows Republicans 3 percentage points ahead of Democrats. The partisan and demographic breakdowns there are very comparable to those found in the generic ballot. All right. And he brings up the Gallup poll. In July, Republicans led Democrats 45 to 43%. About a year earlier, Democrats enjoyed a 9-point lead on the perennial question. Much of the shift captured in the Gallup poll reflects an underreported ideological swing. A new Morning Consult study finds Americans are less liberal than they were before the 2018 midterms, without a doubt. 37% said they were conservative, 28% were moderate, 27% liberal. We're going to be a little bit different to that. Liberal will be down more, moderate will be higher, and conservatives in our generic ballot polling, you will see, they're going to be, look, we think they're going to be at least 38. All right, so they project at least 3, a net swing. Our latest projection is a net swing of 3 Senate seats, leaving them with a 53-47 majority. J.D. Vance, as well as Mehmet Oz, will win in Ohio and Pennsylvania. That's their projections. And Republicans, including former football star Herschel Walker and venture capitalist Blake Masters and the lawyer and scion of prominent American family Adam Laxalt, should also win in Georgia, Arizona, and Nevada, respectively. All right. They may also pick up the seat held by Maggie Hassan, which we have told you at this point. People are like, why haven't you moved Pennsylvania back? And if you really don't know why we still have Pennsylvania leans Republican, then you haven't been listening. The overstating of Democrat support in the last 3 out of 4 election cycles in the state of Pennsylvania, and actually it's 4 in Pennsylvania, has been far greater than the current lead that Fetterman has in the race right now. All right. There's no more. Everyone's got about a 2-point lead for Fetterman. Then the Susquehanna poll is now dead even. That is an Oz victory. All right. In this environment, you got to give it to Mehmet Oz. You have to. And by the way, Oz leads in the betting markets for the first time today. All right, so anyone hoping that still undecided voters will ultimately swing the election the Democrats' way will be disappointed. All right, and I'm just going to leave it there. I'm going to stop sharing that for a second. We're going to come back. We're going to look at it from the other side of the aisle at this point. Okay, let's look at what we looked at Politico yesterday, and that was actually talking to Democratic strategists who deal with Democratic donors, who deal with cutting ads for Democrats. All right, that's who those people were in that article. Now, this is a more well-known person, a more well-known name, but it's important to get both sides of this argument. And then after the break, we're going to take a look at some polling. All right, brace yourself for a Republican wave. This is Doug Schoen and Andrew Stein. At the end, we'll read you their bios. As voters shift their attention to the economy and crime, polls begin to hint at a major GOP advantage. Notice he didn't say polls began to hint at a GOP advantage. The polls had already hinted at a GOP advantage for the entire year, barring the summer. Now they're hinting at a major GOP election. All right. The Republican Party is on the cusp of a substantial midterm election victory that could rival their wins in 94 and 2010. Remember this. There has been a 3-point swing to Republicans in generic ballot polling in just the last month, according to the Real Clear Politics average. Remember this for the next segment. Democrats led by as much as 1.3 in September, but as of Monday, Republicans were up 1.8. A late September ABC News Washington Post poll found that Republican advantage concentrated where it's needed most. They had a 5-point lead among likely voters nationwide, but a 21-point lead in competitive congressional districts. Other battleground district polls from CBS, The Economist, YouGov do not expect The Economist and YouGov or YouGov and Yahoo News. Don't expect them to have final Republican leads. I actually suspect they'll probably put it at a tie at best for Republicans or back to Democrat. That has been the history in the last 4 cycles with these people. CNN, they were one of the ones that had a Democrat lead in 2014. State because it's important. They showed the GOP with a much narrower lead, but a consistent one. What does this mean for seats? The House current breakdown is 2020 to 2012 in favor of Democrats, with 3 seats vacant. A majority of a full House is 218. As of Sunday, RCP rates 221 as leaning, likely, or securely Republican, to 176 for the Democrats. The other 38 are toss-ups. If there are no upsets on either side and the toss-ups are evenly split, that brings Republicans to a 240 to 195 majority, a gain of 28 seats. A Republican sweep of the toss-ups races would expand the majority to 259 to 176. Do you see why Robert and I are trying to explain to people it's actually relatively so conceivable for Republicans to hit that 247 roof? It's a modern record for Republican majority, but that in an election where just the levee breaks, you could bust into the 50s, no problem. I mean, you really can. I mean, especially with what we saw in Virginia and New Jersey, you see swings like this and the levee is going to break because of the way districts are. I mean, not without going, you just have to take all of our words for it. All right. I'm not going to go through 40 individual districts. I actually did that in pretty great detail with Peter Navarro, but it took an hour to do just with 2 or 3 sentences for each district. All right. This, you'll have to take our words for it. The bottom line is R+5 or something like that or more. And you could really see an incredible breaking of the levee. And then, people get wiped out. And it doesn't even matter. Some of these, nationalization of the races. This one lied about a service record. This one did this. This one's a J6. This one's an election diet. None of that will matter. As you saw in the New York Times poll, where even a big chunk of Democrats said, I would entertain a candidate who thinks that Trump, that Biden is, I would entertain it if they spoke to me on the other issues. And you had Jen Psaki on Twitter having a meltdown over it. Well, Jen, maybe if Democrats hadn't put into question the legitimacy of every election that Republicans have won dating back to 2000, you wouldn't have warmed them up to it. You normalized it. Every single elected Democrat and the nominees, actually, in 2018, they were all election deniers. In 2018, there's somebody running right now for the governor rate again in the state of Georgia. She still won't admit she lost. She still thinks Brian Kemp stole that election from her. The last two U.S. presidential nominees for the Democratic Party are both election deniers who think Vladimir Putin and Donald Trump colluded to steal the 2016 election. They normalized it. The idea that it would matter more than whether you could put food in the damn shopping cart or gas in your gas tank? Only white, rich liberals in Metroland could conceive of such a scenario. The rest of us have to deal with the real world and planet Earth. Historical trends favor Republicans too. In the midterm elections since 1982, generic, and you know this from our model we showed you, generic polling averages in the weeks leading up to the election have overstated the president's party by an average of 3.5 points, according to 5-turd fake. But guess what, ladies and gentlemen? That's because they included Republican presidents. When the president was a Democrat, they overstated averages by 8.6, which is the graphic I showed you when we went through the slide of our election forecast, which is being updated. The Senate has become less prone to major shifts as voting patterns have tended to line up with those in presidential races. Since 2014, the Republicans have never held fewer than 50 seats or more than 54. But with the chamber divided 50-50, a net gain of a single seat would give the GOP control. Real Clear Politics projects the Republicans will gain 2 seats, as do we, in Georgia and Nevada, and hold their current seats for a 52-seat majority. Republican gains in House and Senate polling have coincided with a shift in the national issues agenda that has been favorable to the GOP. Voters are focused again on inflation. Big shock. A major vulnerability for Democrats. Republicans hold substantial double-digit leads over Democrats on the ability to handle inflation. Specifically, 19 points in the economy, 16 in the ABC News Washington Post poll. The overturning of Roe v. Wade briefly shifted voters' attentions in a way that was advantageous to Democrats, but the media overstated its effect. No, you don't say. The Washington Post's David Byler notes in a recent column, citing the analysis of pollster John Kovulian, Mr. Byler notes that relative turnout in primaries has tended to predict midterm election outcomes, with Democrats having the edge in 06 and 18 and Republicans in 10 and 14. Folks, does any of this sound familiar? I mean, they're essentially plagiarizers at this point, right? I mean, what do we call them? They're essentially plagiarizers. We were talking about all of this. We explained to you all of this while they were still entertaining that the Democrats would keep the House. The primary vote share, voter registration trends, direction of country, right track, wrong track, presidential approval rating, economic indicators. The majority of 2022 primary voters were in Republican races, 52%, rather than Democratic races, 48%. The Republicans held up in states that voted after the Supreme Court decided Dobbs v. Jackson's Women's Health Organization, although it narrowed from 8 points to 2. A more familiar predictor of midterm performance is the president's approval rating. Biden's current approval of 42 last month is on par with Bill Clinton's in 94, and Barack Obama's in September of 2010, 45 as per Gallup. In those years, Democrats lost 53 and 63 seats, respectively. Republicans' gain this year is almost certain to be more modest than that, but only because the GOP has already picked up 14 seats in 2020, and actually it was 15 net, but whatever. Mr. Schoen was a senior advisor to Bill Clinton's 1996 campaign, a White House advisor from 94 to 2000, an advisor to Hillary Clinton's U.S. Senate campaign. Mr. Stein, also a Democrat, served as the New York City Council president from 1986 to 1994. So in other words, before Democrats lost their you-know-what minds. All right, we're going to take a quick break. When we do, we're going to come back. We're going to run a clip, and then we're going to take a look at the overnight interviews, and we will see how people are doing, how people are feeling. We'll take a look at pretty much, generically here, the raw data, what does it say about right track, wrong track? What does the register voter economic confidence index look like? By the way, I'm open to new ideas for the name of that. I just wanted to make it very clear it is an economic confidence index, but it deals specifically with registered voters. I'm open. Just a simple voter confidence index, voter economic confidence index. That would be VC. I'm an acronym guy. The military did it to me. I got to come up with an acronym for everything. Everything that's long in its own thing, long, name to its full title, always has to have a parentheses after it with its acronym. So they did me so dirty. Because you know what? It's probably a good thing. Wouldn't give it up for the world.
He has
here she. I do, baby. I do. I got to come up with an acronym for everything. Anyway, I bet you a lot of veterans out there, you know what I'm talking about. I bet you I'm not alone. Bet you the farm. All right, let's do a quick word from our sponsors and we'll come back. All right. Speaking of which, I'll tell you what, wait till you see some of this economic confidence. Look, food shortages could be coming in the U.S. You're right. Yeah, I mean, you're damn right. Even in the U.S., experts are talking about it. They've been writing about it since July. Drought, inflation, even new policies are pushing America's food supply to its breaking point. And that's why survival food is more important than ever. Create your own stockpile of the best-selling 4 Patriot survival food kits like Laura and I have done for our family. It's not ordinary food. We're talking about good for 25 years, super survival food. Hand-packed right in a family-owned facility in the US of A. And kits are compact, they're sturdy, they're water-resistant, light-resistant, and they stack easily. You can keep them out of the way for when you need them. They have different delicious breakfasts, lunches, dinners, and you can make these meals in less than 20 minutes. Just add boiling water, simmer, and serve. Go to 4patriots.com/TPP for the People's Pundit to get your 3-month survival kit. You'll get their famous guarantee for an entire year after your order, plus 10 free gifts and free shipping. They're called 4 Patriots because a portion of every sale is donated to charities who support our veterans and their families. Just go to 4patriots.com/TPP to build your own stockpile today, like Laura and I have done for our family. And while, if you want, you're on their website checking out some of their other great products, you can use the code TPP10. That's TPP for the People's Pundit, 10 to get 10% off your site-wide order. We're going to actually, one of these days, maybe we'll do a little video, go through all the stuff that comes in that kit, because the kit is absolutely the way to go, in my opinion. I think it's the best value that I've seen in any of these, survival food kits, because believe me, we've tried a lot. 4 Pages is our favorite. And one day we'll go through it and show you all the stuff. I mean, it's unbelievable. And those of you who ordered it, thank you, by the way. All right, look, you know what they were talking about in that political article about the New York Times poll, how inflation is back. The stock market, even though it rallied on Monday, looks like crap. It still nevertheless has gone down significantly. The last time the economy looked like this, folks, the stock market tanked 50%. The U.S. dollar lost 46% of its value, and the price of oil quadrupled. While the U.S. economy collapsed and inflation ran through the roof, the price of gold shot up 1,300%. Silver rocketed 2,400. So if history repeats itself, we could see it happen again. We can't afford to miss what could be the biggest gold and silver boom of our generation. I'm not. And that's why I want you to visit tpplikesgold.com, tpplikesgold.com, because when you do, you'll not only get the chance to protect your retirement savings with gold and silver, you could get $10,000 or more in free silver just for doing it. It's a rare opportunity, so don't miss what could be your best opportunity to protect your retirement savings. Go to tpplikesgold.com, tpplikesgold.com. All right, and thank you to our sponsors. All right, let's play this quick video, and then we're going to look up, wow, there's still people, unbelievable. I put a kibosh to this. If you did not start it last night and have it to the point where it's 24 hours later now and you're done with your interview, If you haven't done that yet, then they're cut off. It's amazing how many people are doing this interview. It's incremental. Don't get me wrong, it's incremental, but it's incredible. It really is. There's, I don't want to give anything away because Laura gets mad, and rightfully so. But I will say that there still are ways, regardless of how bad some of the public polling is, there are ways to make sure that you can get people. All right. Now, sometimes it's going to be harder than others, but if you do it right, if you talk to people the right way, but I suppose you have to understand the American people. I suppose you can't look down on them and have contempt for them, because then you won't be able to speak their language and they'll just tell you to go F yourself, uh, and that's a problem with the way everybody is in this, in this industry. They don't understand them, and they have enormous contempt for them. Let's see. I'm trying to weed some out before I show it to you. If they're not likely, I don't even want you to see the raw. All right, report options. Let's combine this puppy. Let's see if I could do a combined. I'm trying to add the phone with the online components, and then maybe we can see how many we got. So this will be almost 2,500 likely voters. Wow. We'll take a look at the map too. Not bad, folks. Not bad. As far as geographic participation, you know how I am with that. It bothers me when I see people conduct polls that are skewing terribly towards certain metro areas. Okay, so it's almost 300. Okay, we can pop this up. It's almost 300. And we'll do this together. Okay, share screen. These are the last interviews from what trickled in last night. Remember, it is raw, so I don't want to. I'm not doing this to confuse everybody. I'm simply trying to show you. And let's check out and see. Let's do a response map. I'm just trying to show you, how the sauce is made. But let's take a look at this, where we got some of these responses from. So Midwest, the metros always fill in first. All right. Not bad in Florida. This is not the entire poll. This is one round of interviews. Okay. Pretty heavily Northeast. And in fact, we'll take a look at region now. Whoa. Way too Northeast. South looks okay. It's a little bit too much. Hell, maybe not. The South is really growing. All right. But it is too Northeast, which is the most liberal area in the country. The Midwest is a battleground area. Okay. The South is Republican, as you guys know, right? The Northeast is liberal and can be a battleground, but it's liberal. In wave Republican years, like for instance, if New York really is close, Maine, is closer. Look, like Robert said last night, Robert Barnes, he is 100% correct. I would straight ignore the polls in Maine. There's one pollster that does a decent job, and they seem to be they have done a better job at the presidential level than they did. They had Susan Collins winning. They just didn't have her winning by as much as she did. As I remember, there was one poll. I don't want to talk out of my butt here. I think Susan Collins was even up in this poll, but I do know that they always projected Trump's margin correctly in the what's it called? They projected Trump's margin correctly in the 2nd congressional district. All right. Let's see if they also projected. It does not look like they did. So Fabrizio and Ward blew that race. I won't give away any secrets. Everyone blew the race in Maine. Everybody. Collins didn't lead in a single poll. She won pretty overwhelmingly. Okay. The consensus map actually had her losing. It was some people had it likely Democrat, some people had it leans Democrat. Nate Silver had like an 85% chance Susan Collins was going to lose. The Bangor Daily News. Did they ever do another one? It doesn't look like they did. That's a shame. All right. Well, they didn't. So they blew it. Okay. Even they blew it. They had Gideon by 5. Folks, Susan Collins won that race easily. If we go to the Real Clear Politics average, oh my God. They eventually did. Bangor Daily News eventually did go to Gideon +1, but Susan Collins won by 9 percentage points. I mean, folks, I got to tell you, if you look, go, I'll drop it in the, I'm going to drop it in the comment section here. There you go. Locals coming your way. Getter coming your way. Rumble coming your way. Oh, my God, guys. Click on that link. Take a look at it. Oh, God. So, yeah. All right, let's take a look and see. Pretty suburban, right? 54% suburbia. 22% urban, 24% rural. Why don't we like to weight based on, self-identified area type? Because a lot of people don't know really where they live, ladies and gentlemen. They don't. You live in some people who say some people who are in rural America will tell you it's a suburb. And I suspect that strongly happened here. Some people in urban metros, all right, think they're in suburbs, right? Like maybe they have a Greystone. They think that's a suburb. All right. So we don't, because people are wrong. And it's not, you can do it by, if you know, which is why you should, you can do it by voter file. If they were a Protestant, okay, then we asked them whether or not they were self-identified evangelicals. And 47% said yes, 47% said no, 6% refused to answer. All right. It is 46% Protestant, 20% Catholic, 1.7% Jewish, 1% Muslim, 7.5% another religion, 23.5% no religion. I'll tell you right now, that's like damn near spot on with any national exit poll in recent memory. This is not bad collection. Are you a member of the military? 12.3. Are you a veteran? 12.3. Are you a member of the military? 1. No, 87. Pretty close, although a little bit less military than it should be. Heavily parental. Okay. Heavily married, but it's a midterm. So don't be surprised if that's actually what happens. All right. Midterms tend to be more married, more educated. All right. Woo! Pretty wealthy. So I suspect this will lean Democratic. Pretty high school. This is, again, one round, so there's thousands of other responses in this poll. I'm looking at it for the first time with you right now. Some college associates, basically right on the money. As we can tell here, graduate, postgraduate, this is why we obtain very large samples, ladies and gentlemen. This is not even remotely close to reality. 25.6% is way overrepresented with advanced college graduates. Now, this is a major problem in public polling. I should stop right now. This is why Marist sucks. This is why Suffolk sucks, especially Marist, but Suffolk too. Look, depending on the mode of collection, I've told you this before, and I can compare the phone to online to show you. Phone collection skews a little bit too liberal, a little bit too democratic, actually, I should say, too educated. Because that's why I tell you don't worry about party, because what does this tell me? There are going to be Republicans who are too moderate in this poll. Okay, so in other words, or in the raw, it's not going to be in the poll overall, but in the raw, Republicans like Bill Kristol are super willing to take surveys like this. They don't mind staying on the phone and doing what they got to do. Whereas working class people, as you can clearly tell, are much more difficult to get. All right, which is why we have big samples, at least for a national poll. at least 2,000. All right. I'm going to say this again. The standard at Big Data Poll, it must be at least 2,000 completed interviews for a national poll. Anything below that, we have found, can cause some serious problems. We're going backwards, so this is actually union type. Let's go up one, and then we'll look at it. Are you a member of a union? 16.4, 83.6 is no. All right. When they say yes, we ask them what kind. Public sector union, 58, private, 29, and about 13% have a union household that has both. Somebody who who is a member of a public sector, and one is a member of a private. Unemployed, working full time. You know what? Let's take a look at Big Data Poll real quick. We have the employment trends. Let's see what they have been, and then we will see how close they are. Where are you? Okay, registered voter economic employment status. And again, this is going to be likely if they're certain not to vote, and most of the unlikelies are screened out. So this is a little bit more employed than the nation as a whole. And this is why, people like me, we know the Bureau of Labor Statistics are full of because, their methodology is totally different. It's been in the 40s in recent polls, so maybe employment will slightly tick up here. It will distort it, however, because it is a likely voter poll, so it may not go on the trend. It's not really right, probably. Asian other group, very few Asians in this poll so far. It's not worth looking at. Hispanics, very few. All right, so this is why, again, you got to collect big responses. It's not enough. This is very English as far as white. German second. This isn't that bad, actually. It's really not. White is way too much white. 85.3. And let me just look at the online. What is white? White on these 64. So it will actually match up. Okay. It's going to be the age groups. Where did we go? Ages. It's almost perfect with gender. Ages are going to be all over the place. It's not really in order, okay? But it'll be all over the place. I didn't regroup them, so it'll go in order that they responded. So by the most amount. How many people said there were 40? All right. Conservative, liberal, moderate. This is actually pretty darn close. So, like I said, so here's where if we come up with like 39% conservative, 40% conservative, you'll see why. All right. Liberals are going to be, because they are in the online component. Let's look down and see how much are liberal. I think there are more moderates in the online if I just look. And the other phones. So in the other phone, it is. Jeez. In the other phone, it is 21.8. That's the average for the phone. For online, it's 25. Okay, so liberals will be between 22 and 25. Moderates are a lot more in the online component. They're about 45. Conservatives are about 31 ballpark. In the other phone components combined, it is let me look. So the other phone component, it's very close to what it is here. Very close. All right. Interesting. See, I'm looking at this for the first time. I'm going to crunch it when I get off with you guys. I was just waiting for people to finish their interviews. Wow. Party IDs almost identical. Overall, let's look. The online is D+4. The phone overall is R+4. Wow. Ooh, that's interesting. Last night it got a little bit more Democratic, I guess, but Republicans are much more likely to vote. So that will impact, trust me, the likely voter model will screen some of these Democrats out who are not certain to vote. That's going to happen. All right. Layout and options. How comfortable are you? Let's go and look by row percents. All right. Pollsters. This is pretty good. This is a lot different than online. So we made them feel more comfortable during this. This is good. So we don't have to worry a whole lot at all about, it's not in the right order. Oh, yes, it is. We don't have to worry a whole lot here about a response bias. Let me see if there's a big difference between the other responses or if this is one night. Total combined, there is a big difference. Okay, so combined with all the responses we've collected so far, right? That's all of them? Yes. With all of the responses, all phone, all online, that we collected so far, 39.9% said they were very comfortable. 26.3% said they were somewhat comfortable. 19.9% said they were somewhat uncomfortable. And 13.9%, so 14%, said they were very uncomfortable. Somewhat uncomfortable was 20. And, then it's not great. It may be a little bit lower than usual, probably because we are getting close to an election. It's a midterm. Maybe Republicans are a little bit more comfortable, but it's still going to be roughly a third of all likely voters who say that they are somewhat at least uncomfortable to discuss their opinions on the race. All right, while I have the combined up, I'm going to look at this last response, and then we're going to talk about what the combined number is. All right, so what we're looking at, by the way, is D+2. All right, so abortion's going to fall. Food and groceries overall combined. In this one, it says 52.3 who chose inflation are worried about food and groceries. Combined, it's 54. All right, that's pretty interesting. All right, 26.7% said they were worried about gas and fuel. That's why they picked cost of living. Combined, gas and fuel's only 16%. Again, raw here, folks. Let me make the disclaimer. It is raw. 8.1 said taxation in this one. Overall, it's only 5%. All right. What's next after that? Housing and shelter was 7%. Overall, it's much more, almost 16%. All right. Utilities, 2.3. Utilities and electric. Overall, it's a little bit more, 5%, 4.8. All right. Medical in this group of responses said 2.3. Overall, 3.8 said medical. Transportation, sorry, Joe Biden, 1.2%, which is one damn response at all. Overall, though, only out of 2,000 something responses and about 800 who chose cost of living, only 0.9% chose transportation and vehicles. And why is that important? Because Joe Biden had said, that was the reason in the beginning that inflation was soaring. It was the car salesman. You should blame your local car salesman. You remember? All right, so let me just tell you, abortion will look high here, and I just looked at the overall. It's much less. Abortion, 16% said abortion. Overall, only 11% said abortion, and it is much more educated, folks, than it should be. And it's much more Northeast than it should be. Even combined, let me give you the region combined. The Northeast is still about a quarter. That is not right, folks. Okay, the Northeast will be about 1 in 5. That's it. Exit polls be damned. The voter file, every single voter record. The Northeast only represents 17% of the country because it does vote in high rates, very high rates. Its participation rate is higher than some of these other areas around the country. Why? Because Hispanics are not flexing their political power. They are not flexing their political muscle, I should say. Okay. If they did, then the West, even now parts of the Midwest, but the West and the South would see higher participation rates, which would reduce the share of the vote in the Northeast because they are represented. They're overrepresented. All right. They are only 17%, yet they are routinely around 19, 20. Okay. Or to 21, I think the last exit poll was. All right. So as you can see, it's the economy and its cost of living. All right. Overall, let me give you the numbers overall because I know it's more than what we saw last night. Overall cost of living is 33% chose cost of living, 16% chose the economy, only 11% chose abortion. Where else? There's some good ones here. Immigration is going to be almost tied with abortion. So will crime. Ooh, crime has risen, ladies and gentlemen. It is on the rise as a most important issue. It is. Ooh. Crime, policing, and safety will be... Ooh. It'll either be number 3 or 4, it looks like. Huh. It depends what immigration does and abortion, how much more that actually is going to be weighted down. Because again, it's not 26% post-grad, folks. That's why abortion is 16% here. Okay? It's not 26% post-grad. All right. I don't want to give you any presidential stuff. Sorry. You got to wait for that. Let's go up to the top. See how much we screened out this time. If you gotta be a resident, but of course, very few of these actually get screened out. Let me look at how many were disqualified. Probably not a lot. All right. Well, forget that, but probably not a lot overall. This is all obviously registered. It's coming sourced from a voter file, so we know for the most part the people that are being called are registered to vote. All right, 95% of the sample, after screening out the people who do not have vote history to support their claims, 95% are certain to vote. Out of this, let's go up and see the overall sample. Right now, we're about 2,400, okay? Certain to vote is less overall. It's 75.4. Likely is 18.2, although I see why there still is a small amount of unlikely. It does look like they've had significant vote history, at least 2 out of 4. So, okay. As I'm looking at why this didn't screen them out. All right. Extremely enthusiastic, 67%. It is lower overall, but still. All right. Voted in the following general elections. 10%. I never voted in a general election. Listen, I'm telling you, I think we're going to have a big turnout. I really do. This will be, we'll have to, when we get to market site, we'll have to screen out more. What is it overall? Yeah, see, it's less overall. It's 4.3. And it probably will fall to around 3. New voters, that's typical. This is high for a midterm election. And when we get it on market site, the rest of those people who don't answer, sufficient number of these and can back it up with their vote history, then it's many. Look, some of these get screened out there. Some people lie, but for the most part, we believe them. All right. It's just that this, I'm telling you, it's going to happen. And some people screw up and don't really understand what we're asking. So we have to run it through market site just to make sure that they understood the question correctly. All right. Generally speaking, would you say things in this country are headed in the right direction or have gotten off on the wrong track? Holy crap. That's bad. Oh, Laura, are you listening? Holy moly, Laura. Not good. She said she just doesn't want to pop in, but yeah, she's listening. Oh my God, Laura. This could be the worst right track, wrong track ever. This could be, why am I screaming as if she can't hear me through the microphone in the other room? She's laughing her ass off. I can hear her laughing. Man, this could be the worst right track, wrong track ever pulled by Big Data Poll. This is really bad. Holy moly. Let me look at it. The worst we ever polled was 22.8 right direction, 70.1 wrong direction. It's going to be close because I know this will be offset a little bit, by some of the more, because you saw how white this sample was. Black voters are how many, let me look overall what the race sample is overall. But black voters tend to say the country's set in the right track under a Democratic president more. Oh my God, that's bad. That is really bad. All right, so overall, black voters are 13%. So yeah, it doesn't look. Hispanics though are extremely negative. They're 10%. Yeah, they're extremely negative. Wow, this could tell you what too. It does look like this could be a white electorate. when we do the likely voter, it does look like it could be a 73%, 74% white electorate. And people will crow. They'll crow about it, ladies and gentlemen. This poll is too white. Go back and look at other midterm electorates. Okay? It happens. That's what happens. Let's look at 2014. At 2014 exit polls, and I know I got to go to a break here soon, but I'm gonna push back because we're looking at polling today. Oh, for the love of God, the ads on some of these places, just can't take it. Oh my God, some people didn't even update their websites, and their exit polls don't work anymore. 2014 was 75% white. 2018. And I'm always looking for the verified ones. 2018 was... Load up, killer. Load up. There's race by gender. Where's race? 2018 was 72% white. So it is extremely plausible, given that this is a Republican year and black voters are not... I think they'll probably be weighted down to, closer to 11%. It is a midterm electorate. And I think that you're looking at black voters at 11, Hispanic voters at maybe 10, and white voters are going to take up the lion's share of the rest of that. I just think that that's going to happen. All right, so it may help this right track, wrong track number overall, but it's still really bad, guys. Even in the overall raw responses, it's 70% wrong track, basically. And God, this is ugly. This is, I gotta look, see, I wonder what some of these others found, but this is really bad. Right direction, 25 tops. And I actually don't think it's going to make it. I think it's going to be 22. I do. And this is going to rise from 20 to 22. And this is just this is really bad. All right. Please assign positive or negative. This is the Registered Voter Economic Confidence Index. All right. And you can see here that this index is going to fall. Positive for the current and present business conditions is only 18.8. Negative is 56.3. Let me see overall. Let me get the row in percent, please. And I know you can't see that, but 19% positive. This is bad. 19% positive, 40+% negative. That's going to fall considerably. What else is a little bit shocking to me is how bad the last one is, which is the index that's tied to inflation. Expectations regarding total family income 6 months from now, 29.6 positive, 39.0 negative. That is not good. Here you see 50. So, man, and 24.6 positive. Man, it's bad, guys. It's bad. This index is going to fall probably on almost probably every metric. Employment conditions looks abysmal. Yeah, man. You know what's crazy? Expectations in some of these, I mean, they're better, but they're just not great. Yeah. Maybe some of them will tick up, but it does look like the inflation one is going to tick down, which is not good. All right. Yeah, because this skews Democratic a little bit. This is why I actually think that you will see Biden's approval at like 38, 39. Only 2% overall. Only 2% overall believe that Joe Biden is undecided about Joe Biden. He has started now to fall in the territory of Donald Trump. All right. And that means people are harder to move. Okay. They're harder to move. On inflation. Let's see where he is on inflation. Yeah, these are bad numbers. Immigration, low 30s. Foreign policy ticked up a little bit. I think he's going to be up a little bit. But crime, maybe he ticks up a little bit on crime. See, I don't know. Because again, when It's a Republican, it's a Democrat leaning sample. So it's going to get worse for Biden. It will inevitably pull down his approval ratings. And honestly, overall, it's pretty consistent that here this sample is R+5. And it's pretty consistent that is the way that this overall looks like R+5 too. But we'll have to wait and we'll see. Republican candidates, Democrats doing a little bit better on leans last night than they did the prior night. All right, but either way, can't show you that. So overall, what I want you to look at is think about, post grads will be, ballpark. Let me look. Let's say post grads are 17%. All right. Let's say there's 17%. Then that would push the support for Democrats down further. All right. And, but things happen. That's why I always hesitant to tell you, exactly to give you a ballpark number. But this is a bad poll for Democrats. All right. As you can see. And why? Why is it a bad poll for Democrats? Because look at right track, wrong track. Look how bad the right track, wrong track number is. Okay. That's why it's a bad poll for Democrats. It's a terrible number. Biden's approval is not good. Look, Biden's approval should be close to 50-50 with 25% postgraduate. It's not. All right. So, yeah, let's see if there's anything that I'm hiding presidential numbers that I don't want you to see at this point. That's what I'm hiding. All right. I'm not giving you everything all at once. All right. Okay. I will tell you this, though. Let me just look.
You better behave
Trump
yourself.
I just wonder why Trump. I know. I just want to say this, though. Yesterday, Republicans were taking undecideds 2-1, leaners 2-1. Trump was taking them 3-1. Today, it's a little bit better. They're still taking 4-3, but this is a small sample. It's one day. It's going to be combined with everything else, but yet still, Trump takes them 3-1. So I just don't know what Republicans are missing. I mean, I guess I do. Some people just don't believe Republicans are going to, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what the news is with the Hobbs and the ballots in Arizona. I don't know. I've been on the show. I didn't see it, but yeah, I just don't understand what it is that hold on one second. This is kind of hold on. All right, Laura.
Yes.
I'm just gonna text you something. Just confirm that that's you, and then I'll send it to somebody and just expect somebody to call. I've been trying to book you. But it is right. That's right.
Yeah, no, that's right. But if they were trying to book you, they would know that they have to go through your gatekeeper, which is me.
That's what I'm saying. But you know what? We did change our numbers.
But my email's always available. It's out there. I get
Yeah,
emails
that's
from
true.
everyone.
That's
I mean,
true.
everyone.
So where were we before that? We were on
We were talking about hiding presidential numbers.
and yeah, no, guys, and by the way, you have the media is going to poll the way the media is going to poll. I'm just looking at some of the questions out there, and I don't think Kerry Lake and Hobbs are tied. I don't believe it. All right. What is this? I mean, it's beautiful. I'm not the only one getting annoyed, by the way. I'm reading some of the ridiculous I'm reading some of like people, like other polls, just getting so frustrated with this. Speaking of media polls, that one had to do specifically with Pennsylvania, but they pretend that like something they publish, even though Laura, you've already been showing it, you know, like there are these like articles and stuff too. It's very similar. They pretend though, like when they find the race in Pennsylvania is tied, it's profound, right? Even though like Jim is like, yo, what the hell are you talking about? We came out with a poll a week ago or days ago that showed the race was tied. Like, yet they act like they're the authority on it. And somebody had asked about Arizona, and you know, the fact is, Arizona's not tied. It's not. And the media keeps saying that in their favorite polls that, you know, said that Mark Kelly was going to win by 8 points. He did not. All right. They absolutely, you know, do come up with these crazy polls in the hope that they can keep Hobbs in the running, you know, and it's just stupid. They want to. A group of Justice Department prosecutors believe there is sufficient evidence to charge Donald Trump with obstruction of justice, but the path to an actionable indictment is far from clear. Bloomberg Politics. These people, guys, I don't know if you heard about them arresting this pro-life activist the other day. David Giglio is right. By the way, congratulations to my friend David. He knows what I'm talking about. But he's right. I just said, what is it that Republicans are missing that Trump is getting? Like, why does Trump take these leaners 3-1, right? And, you know, I just don't, why does he take them 3-1 and Republicans don't? Well, maybe it's because Kevin McCarthy, like David said all the time, maybe it's because Kevin McCarthy isn't talking about how he's going to remove Merrick Garland from office with impeachment proceedings when he gets in the House of Representatives. I'm serious. I don't know. I mean, you could walk and chew gum at the same time, folks. People are being persecuted right now. Prosecuted and persecuted. You have to defend them. Economic confidence of registered voters. Kind of does sound better than the registered voter, right? But I want an index name, Kirk. Can you hook me up with an index name? And as far as the early vote goes in Arizona, it's not that it's really record breaking. I mean, there will be turnout. You know, I would say there will be historical turnout in Arizona because I can see it. But I think what we're going to see is extremely different voting behaviors. Democrats more and more will continue to vote by mail, and Republicans more and more will not. All right, because I am seeing a lead for Hobbs in the early vote in polling that's bigger than anything I've seen for a Democrat. Even Trump wasn't trailing the early vote this much. And there are more Democrats saying that they'll vote early, and they're leaning independents. However, the margin for the election day vote is bigger for Kerry Lake than, and by the way, those late arriving ballots, which they're telling people not to do. If you don't want to wait to see what the outcome of the election is for 4 days, then don't drop your ballot off on election day. Go and vote in person. Just be in person, you know, or mail your ballot in. There's nothing wrong with mailing your ballot in. And I will say this too, guys. It happened during the primary. Everyone was talking about the voting behavior for Democrats in the primary in Arizona. Look at how many votes they requested. Requesting is not the same as returning, which is what you're seeing right now. You're not really seeing the totality of the picture with returns. But I've been telling people, expect that early vote number, that margin, to be way bigger for Democrats across the board than it has been in the past. And the election day vote is going to be way bigger. You know, just to give you guys an idea, let's look it up. That's the tight race one. That's not the one I'm looking for. But it may have a thing at the bottom, article like this kind of thing. Let's see. Doesn't have a... All right. Unfortunately, it does not. But I'll just search for it real quick. And I just want to give you the... margins. I mean, they were huge. This is not what we saw in the case of 2020. Okay. It was actually, clearly Joe Biden had an early vote lead. Okay, here we go. That's the generic ballot. Let's do governor. By the way, Trafalgar vote method. Okay, here we go. So the early vote mail, we have Hobbs winning 61-33. And people are going to have a canary when that happens on election day. Okay. But we have Kerry Lake winning the election day 70-23. So it's a bigger margin with a smaller group, but a slightly smaller group. It's going to be a much bigger group this time who votes on election day by party. Let's look at vote method by party. Okay. All right. Only 44% of Republicans said they were going to vote by mail. 73% of Democrats said they would, and 58% of independents said they would. 41% of Republicans are going to vote on election day. 19% of Democrats only, which I think will be less because we overestimated Democrat in-person election day vote during the primary. 35% will be other or independent. That I'm going to drop my ballot off on election day, but it is my mail-in ballot. That's made up. Twice as many Republicans are going to do that than Democrats and independents. And by the way, Kerry Lake wins that group. Even though Republicans are telling people not to do this, Kerry Lake wins that group 67-24. So I just think that, we have got to be more dynamic in our understanding of how elections are going to be reported and how people are going to vote. I tried to do this in 2020, showing graphics, and in Florida was a great example. I was trying to explain to people that not only is this nothing really alarming for Trump and Republicans in Florida right now, but that Republicans were going to vote, they told us they were, more in person early. But as it got closer to election, they didn't want to vote weeks and weeks out. And then many were going to vote on election day. And that's why we told people, just ignore it, and they didn't. And everyone was having a canary. Remember, Mr. Five Turd Fake wanted to take Fifi for a walk because he had already proclaimed that Joe Biden was going to win the state of Florida. And then on election day, when there was reports of extremely high turnout, he said, I'm taking my poodle for a walk. I don't want to entertain this nonsense. You remember that? The election was called in like 45 minutes. So just things are changing. We're living in a different world. And believe me, I would rather, if we're going to keep mail-in vote, if it's going to stay, I would rather Republicans just freaking do it. So we don't have to have all of these questions surrounding the integrity of the election. And frankly, Maricopa could fix this quite a bit if they would just verify their damn signatures the way Florida does with late arriving ballots. If somebody comes in and drops the damn signature off, you can verify them right there. And we're not allowed, we don't hand them in until they're verified, right, Laura? We don't hand them in. There's a signature on the envelope. The lady takes out the pad. You're dropping off a ballot? Yes, ma'am. Please sign here. Let me see your driver's license. Thank you. Voter registration. Thank you. Okay, they match. Signature verified, sent to the scanner. Or sent to the pile to be processed. Removed from the envelope. The envelopes are kept in Florida for a while and sent through the scanner. All right? This is a good question. Pity and Meek, maybe answer later. Sorry if I have to ask you this. I just want to confirm, is there going to be a PA Gov or Senate polling 1.5 weeks before November 8th? Because an accurate polling is badly needed for that race. Yeah, Pity and I want badly to have a final poll in Pennsylvania, and I can't do two. So I'm going to have to make the decision whether or not I come out with another one before the election, or I wait until the final to track it to the end like we've done in the past. And truth be told, I'm not sure yet. I'm not sure yet. I'm still deciding. I know that I got I think something on Halloween, the day of Halloween, to do. I mean, I'll just say this. You know, I'm speaking to Wall Street about the direction of the election, and everybody was very interested in Pennsylvania. And I would love nothing more to have brand new data to share with everybody, because this was like a 2-part series I did. This will be the second part. The first part was me explaining the average errors. We went state by state. This is how badly polls have missed these states over the last, out of 3 out of 4. If it was 3 out of 4 cycles, then we considered it significant. And we went through the last 4 cycles and told them the average error for each one. And that's why we said, at the time, this is, we project Mehmet Oz will win the U.S. Senate race in Pennsylvania. But last night, Robert and I did speak. So I'm not sure. The answer is I'm not sure yet. I may just do it before October 31st because I want it. I want it for them, but I also want to see. But I'm not sure yet. And I will tell you that it wouldn't surprise me for a couple of reasons to find Mastriano down, and probably down pretty significantly. Because one, I know people in PA politics, PA Republican politics, and there are a lot of Republicans, elected Republicans, who have forsaken him, Mastriano. These are the same never Trumpers who wanted to stop Donald Trump from winning the Keystone State in 2020. They don't want Doug Mastriano to be the governor during 2024. They just don't want it. The RGA abandoned Doug Mastriano. Guys, it was a winnable race. Can I be honest with you? And I'm not saying it's over. It could be an upset, but I do think he's an underdog at this point. It's also true that his voters will probably have a social bias much more than Oz's voters, and harder to reach than Oz's voters. But the bottom line is, Shapiro has spent a lot of money. And it's hard when you're being outspent the way he's being outspent. Like, I don't think Mastriano, he's not even on the air. And I don't think he spent $3 million or $3.5 million yet. Meanwhile, Shapiro has spent 20 plus up until this month, or up until the end of the summer. And then in the month of September and October combined, between outside groups and everything, he's going to be pushing on like 50 mil. He's burying Mastriano in that. And there is nothing but grassroots surrounding him. And I will tell you, he just hasn't gotten his message out. It took me weeks to book the man. I mean, I know he's busy and everything, but they really betrayed him. They really betray. I mean, this is the thing about Republicans. This is why Steve Bannon's precinct strategy is such a great idea for Republican-based voters. Even though they're having fights with people who have been doing a good job for years, and I don't want to bring up specifics. I don't trash anybody, but there are places that got their act together in the Trump era and were rather Trumpy immediately. And the precinct strategy people have come in and tried to screw everything up and are causing bad blood. All right. And then there are places like that in Pennsylvania, especially southeastern Pennsylvania, where these are rhinos who will openly tell you that they are voting for Josh Shapiro. They're not going to vote for Mastriano, but they are going to vote for Oz. And I think Oz is going to do really well in Allegheny and Philadelphia. I think all the polls show that he is. They're giving Fetterman a lead by giving him what I think is a black vote share. That's not going to happen. But also strengthen areas that Donald Trump has done well among white voters. And I don't see that for John Fetterman. That's what typically happens in these polling eras. And they're too educated. They miss working class. I just showed you how phone components work. You saw how underrepresented working class people were in that sample. And that was a sample of almost 300. That's why the minimum sample in big data polls it's at least 2,000 for a national poll, because you just saw what'll happen. Those people are just much more willing to participate in polls than the working class. They're harder to get. So you have to keep polling and keep polling and keep polling and keep polling. Those others will always be oversampled, and you'll have to weight them down. But you know what we always say. It is always better to weight down than it is to weight up. And that's why it's important to make sure you keep sampling until you have enough minorities, until you have enough working class, until you have enough rural voters, until on and on and on and on. That Republican vote, that isn't representative of what a Republican vote is. I'll tell you right now. Republicans are not going to lose much more crossover support this year at all. The congressional candidates for the, will get more of, like Patrick Basham said, they will get more of their vote than Democrats may get of theirs, even though it is true that Democrats are becoming, what's the word? They're becoming too stringent. Like this idea that, Republicans are more concerned about them. Holy crap. Almost every single Republican said wrong track. The online panel is actually more liberal than the phone, even though the phone is slightly more educated. Isn't that funny? But that's the way the cookie crumbles. That's why you got to oversample. Hit your targets. Wow. This right track, wrong track is going to be bad. And the electorate, I can't wait to see what that's going to be. I know it's 1:30. We need to take a quick break. But the electorate, I can't wait to see what it's going to be, because Republicans are so much more likely to say they're going to vote. Significantly more likely. And we had been seeing kind of not that big of a difference in, and let me see about Democrats here. We have been kind of seeing not that big of a difference in national polling, but with, see? 5%. The difference is Patrick Basham's right. I don't know about 1 in 12, but we do have, Republican crossover is only 2%. It's 8%. So that's actually 6. Excuse me, I'm rounding. It's 8% in that last round of phone interviews. I wonder what it is. I'll get into it, but the bottom line is it does appear that more Democrats will vote for the Republican congressional candidate than Republicans will vote for the Democrat congressional candidate. We haven't really seen a big difference in certainty to vote nationally. We saw it in the states, but we are seeing it pretty significantly here. So on the phone component, Democrats are pretty much, I'm going to vote. But Republicans definitely are. They're definitely going to vote. It's going to happen. It's interesting. And did I show you the whole, let me see. Well, I'm going to take a quick break. And when we do, I'll show you what the whole thing looks like. But we'll go over all of this. We will. We'll take a look at where did we get the responses from, how many of them came from here, how many of them came from there. We even got some in Alaska this time. Some in Hawaii, some in Alaska. It's pretty interesting. Continental, non-contiguous states, continental U.S. That's pretty neat. It's a big sample. Okay, we'll talk about election night when we come back. All right, there's going to be, there are so far 2 things in the works. All right, which is why I have to end the show on the dot today. When we come back, we'll do a few more questions and stuff like that. But I do have to end it because I do have a conference call to deal with that very question. There's something I just want to talk about when it comes to Arizona and what's going on. I just was talking about crossover with voters. And overwhelmingly, if it is a red wave, which I think is building, overwhelmingly, it will come from independents. But there is something going on here where I think I see what typically could be a reliable Democratic voter going back to even 18 and 16. Something's happening. They're pulling themselves away. And the only difference between, that crossover vote, a lot of them are just simply saying they're independents. And we know they're not independents. And I want to explore that a little bit, and I want to play a clip for you when we come back. But I'm going to do a quick 30-second countdown. When we come back, we'll do a word from the sponsors, and we'll get on and wrap. We'll get on with it all. So try to get to some of the questions I saw and wrap it up. All right. We'll be back. Stay tuned.
You are muted, sir.
Oh, food shortages, prepare for them. They could be coming, even in the US. And what I was saying was somebody put that up, smash the like button. And I said, yeah, smash the like button. And also like a word from our sponsors. That's what I said. That's what they missed. All right. Drought inflation, new policies pushes America's food supply to its breaking point. Prepare for it. That's why survival food's more important than ever. Create your own stockpile of the best-selling Four Patriots. It's not ordinary food, folks. We're talking good for 25 years, hand-packed right in a family-owned facility in the US of A. The kits are compact, they're sturdy, they're water-resistant, they stack easily. You can put them anywhere. They have different delicious breakfasts, lunches, dinners, and you can make these meals in less than 20 minutes. Just add boiling water, simmer, and serve. Go to 4patriots.com/TPP. to get your 3-month survival kit. You'll get their famous guarantee for an entire year after your order, plus 10 free gifts and free shipping. They're called Four Patriots because a portion of every sale is donated to charities to support our veterans and their families. Go to 4patriots.com/TPP to build your own stockpile like Laura and I have done for our family today. And while you're there, if you want to browse their website, don't forget to add TPP10, TPP for the People's Pundit, 10 for 10% off. And that's right, you'll get 10% off your site-wide sale today. All right. And with that, oh yeah, that's right. One more. All right. So, and I'm doing this. I'll tell you what, I am. And it's like funny how many things that I turn down because it's like, if I'm not doing it, I'm not gonna, look, maybe not everyone's like that, but I am. So if I'm not doing it, you won't hear it here. Okay. All right. But I am doing this because I'll tell you what, I don't like what I see. And the last time that I saw the economy like this, and we saw it like this, the stock market tanked by half. The dollar lost almost half its value. Oil quadrupled. And yet while the economy collapsed, inflation ran through the roof. The price of gold went up 1,300%, gold 2,400%, and if history repeats itself, we could see it again. You can't afford to miss out on what could be the biggest gold and silver boom of our generation, not just since the Great Recession. And that's why I want you to visit tpplikesgold.com, because when you do, you'll not only get the chance to protect your retirement savings with gold and silver, you could get $10,000 or more in free silver just for doing it. This is a rare opportunity, so don't miss what could be your best opportunity to protect your retirement savings. Visit tpplikesgold.com. That's tpplikesgold.com. Get your free gold kit right there. Send it on. Send it on out. Give me my gold. All right. So we're back. I want to do a couple of things here. I want to play a couple of things. First, I'm going to go with the video. It is about 2 minutes long. All right. And then when we come back, I want to talk a little bit more about what maybe we could be missing here. Because I think, well, I'm not very well liked in this industry. A few of my peers, but for the most part, especially on the, I would say it's fair to say the left side, they don't like me. I came in this thing swinging. I didn't come in to make friends. I only started doing this publicly because I was doing it privately so much better than them. And I really started to believe that the American people deserved an alternative take, and that election reporting and coverage, forecasting and polling was doing a grave disservice to the American people, the news consumer, the American political news consumer, whatever you want to call it, and ultimately the sovereign voter. there are few people that I give any accolade to whatsoever. And for that, they hate my guts, along with the fact that I'm usually have been. I don't think there's been
You're
where I had more
far
accurate.
more accurate than them. Stop.
Well,
Stop
someone's going to look, everyone's going to be wrong eventually. I just don't feel like that's going to be today or this year. But I give very few kudos, and I want to give them one right now because, credit where credit is due. Steve Kornacki, who amazingly works for MSNBC. He works for NBC, but he's on MSNBC a lot. He is not one of those. He calls balls and strikes, even if he doesn't like what he sees, even if the viewers don't like what he sees. He's one of the very few out of the Washermans out there and the Slimers out there and the Sabados and the tiny crystal balls out there. He's one of the few who saw and understood and then correctly conveyed it to his audience, the difference in voting behavior by voting method, like we just talked about with Arizona. All right. And because of that, he knew, for instance, Oz was going to hold his lead. I mean, and he prepared his audience for that. He knew that Kerry Lake was likely to not only catch Karen Taylor Robson, but overcome, and once that those later, we were just talking about the late ballots that needed to be counted to expand her lead, which he did. All right. So I want to run this, is a video of him analyzing where the election kind of stands right now and what he is comparing it to prior election cycles. Okay.
2014 was a late building wave. You saw that number spike in the last couple of weeks. You've now seen this one go from the Republicans just getting ahead of the Democrats a few weeks ago to being up by over 2 points in today's average. So what you're describing in terms of feeling like things might be moving back towards the Republicans is, it seems right now, bearing out in these numbers. As you say, 3 weeks to go, see if things change. Take a look at the Senate battleground here. Again, sort of the top 5 targets for each party. What does the polling look like in those states? Again, the bottom line continues to be true. Republicans need a net gain of 1 seat if they're going to get control of the Senate. Right now, on average, they lead in 1 Democratic-held seat. That's Nevada. Adam Laxalt continues to lead Catherine Cortez Masto. Were that to hold, that would be a net gain there for Republicans. But Democrats right now, again, continue to be able to counter that. There is 1 Republican-held seat, Pennsylvania. This is Pat Toomey retiring, where John Fetterman, the Democrat, continues to lead in the polling average here over Mehmet Oz. I should note, though, the big trend in this race, you see Fetterman 3.4. August 1st, if you went back and looked at the poll average in Pennsylvania, it was Fetterman 8.7. So that has come down considerably, more than 5 points since then. I think there's a lot of uneasiness among Democrats when they look at Pennsylvania, a lot of variables there. A couple other things to point out on this board here. Wisconsin, Ron Johnson. Ron Johnson's running for his 3rd term from Wisconsin. I don't remember seeing many or maybe even any polls in 2016 and 2010 that had certainly in 2016, that had Ron Johnson ahead. This is a much, at least in terms of the polling, a much better position for him now than it was 6 years ago when he won one of the biggest upsets on election night to get reelected. And then in Georgia, where you had that debate Friday night, Raphael Warnock and Herschel Walker. Warnock continuing to lead in the polling. Haven't really had much in the way of post-debate polling out there, so we're keeping a close eye on that. And the other wild card in Georgia is it's the runoff state. You got to get 50% plus 1 or it goes to a runoff December 6th. And neither Warnock nor Walker right now is at 50% in the polling average there.
So a really good summary. You may notice 2020 in that first block, that first graphic wasn't in there. But, we're comparing midterms, so it's all right. I get it. In 2014, why is this significant? In 2014, as I said numerous times, there were still major media polls, including Fox News, CNN, Pew Research, etc., that actually had Democrats leading on the generic ballot. NBC News was tied. Republicans wound up winning the national popular vote by over 5 points. So a very big miss there on behalf of some of these pollsters. The Senate races, why does this matter? Because the national tends to be a leading indicator, not with everybody's polling, but with the totality of polling. that you'll see. National polling is a leading indicator. And what we had seen in the states is going to reflect in the national poll that we release. It will be a Republican lead and a widened Republican lead from the 2 point something we had a couple of months ago. That didn't get picked up in the polls. Tom Tillis was never ahead. North Carolina, the fact that Ted Budd's up right there, what Steve is trying to point out to people is that Fetterman was a great example. Wisconsin, he pointed out as well. This is not a good position for Democrats, because Fetterman's lead is not only down 5 points since a month, or 2, whatever, August, but it's not only that it's cut, more than in half. It is well within the average error, which is why there is so much trepidation among Democrats that Oz is going to win that race. This late breaking thing that happened in 14, again, I'd argue it was late breaking, but let's just pretend it's the same thing that we're seeing this year, okay? Because we are seeing the polls now late break the way they did in 14. Tillis never caught up. He was down. If they poll the Ted Budd race correctly this year, it will be the first time in 10 years that North Carolina was polled correctly. Fetterman is up well within the margin. Again, like I said, Toomey was an underdog both times, and he won by about 2 points each time. And then with Ron Johnson has never led, ever, in either, when he beat Russ Feingold the first time, it was an upset. When he won re-election the second time, it was a shocking upset. He didn't lead at all in the state of Wisconsin, at all. And then Pat Toomey again in 16, if we go back 6 years to that seat, he had an early lead because he was the incumbent. That's different this time. It's an open seat. He was an incumbent, but what's her name? I'm forgetting her name already. But she had leads in the double digits with some polls. Franklin and Marshall being obviously a well-known poll in Pennsylvania. It's a horrible poll. Completely horrible. Overstates Democratic support very badly. And, yet he still won it. McGinty took the lead in September, and everyone was saying, Donald Trump's going to destroy everyone's chance of getting reelected. And Toomey was down considerably. Everyone was pretty much expecting anywhere between a 4 to 8 point loss for Pat Toomey, and yet he won. He pulled it off. It was called on election night. So the position that Democrats are in is a very bad one. And if this stuff breaks at the last minute, then I think you would see Georgia, obviously, as before Arizona. Somebody had asked before about the runoff. Right now, the way I see it, can Walker avoid a runoff? It's October 19th, and if things are moving, the answer is yes, but we just don't have the evidence for that yet. The national polling suggests that maybe it hasn't picked up yet, like I brought up in Mock 5 Turd Fake 4. Hours after he publishes an article about how much better Warnock is doing in the poll after Walker's abortion revelations, which, by the way, appear to be fake. Those were smears. Folks, if those stories were true, then Warnock would have pushed back on information that he had to refute those stories. But as of right now, they look like the paid word of people, and they're not backed up by any evidence whatsoever. So this idea that Walker, was like talking about how pro-life he is, but aborting babies left and right, that doesn't appear to be true. All right. Because again, Warnock would have had the information. He would have hit Walker on it over the head like crazy. It reeks of a wrap-up smear. Nancy Pelosi's kind of wrap-up smear. And the point of those is to do damage right at the end here of an election, and with fake stories. But it doesn't matter because they do their job. And after the election, when they're disproven, it doesn't matter anymore. Harry Reid, he was perfect with the wrapped up smear. Remember Mitt Romney's taxes? And he knew he was lying. He knew the story was fake. Yet he got people to run it. He got people to back it up. Afterwards, he was asked about why he pushed a fake story. He said, well, it worked, didn't it? That's a wrap-up smear. All right. They reek of what happened to Walker just reeks of a wrap-up smear. However, an hour after this moron publishes this article, Landmark has the race tied again. And they have Republicans leading on the generic ballot by a significant amount. They have Brian Kemp leading by a significant amount. They have Brad Raffensperger leading by a significant amount. They have the Attorney General Republican candidate leading by a significant amount. It's very difficult to see Georgia vote for a Democrat incumbent who is a first year. I mean, his record sucks. They're unhappy with the agenda. It's unbelievable to believe that they're going to go Republican everywhere but the Senate. I just don't believe it. The race for president was too close there. Georgia is about 4 points more Republican than the nation as a whole. So if the nation really is going R+5, maybe more, it's going to be extremely hard for Warnock to hold on. And I'll tell you, this time the runoff is December 5th. It was January 5th with Perdue and Loeffler. It is the case, it is the history that incumbents don't win runoffs in Georgia. They don't. If they don't make it to 50, they lose when it comes to the runoff season. And January 5th was a dumb time for people have different behaviors. And Republicans, it is a dumb idea to have a runoff on January 5th. These are religious people, more religious than their opponents. These are people who take vacations more than their opponents. These are people who observe holidays more than their opponents, especially religious holidays. So the idea that they would have it a couple of days after the new year was incredibly stupid. Incredibly stupid. If they would have had it in December 5th, at least Perdue, if not both Perdue and Loeffler, probably would have won anyway because they hadn't yet pissed off the Trump voter exceedingly the way they did. And they would have had the scheduling fit better. Look, they were missing at least 300,000 Republican voters from that electorate. And yet it was still close. It was still pretty close. If they had those voters, then that would have been the end of it. All right. Speaking of this wild card, I want to talk about something that happened here. This is, I want to give credit for the photo to Shauna Bullock. I asked her, I saw it on Twitter, and I asked her if I could use it. Okay. Here's Tulsi Gabbard campaigning with Kari Lake. She also stumped for Blake Masters, Abe Hamadeh. She has endorsed Kari Lake after leaving the Democratic Party. Listen, I told you when this happened that I thought that this was a pretty big deal. The Gabbard coalition leaving the Democratic Party could be a huge deal. It is an anti-war sentiment. It is an a big gov kind of security state, spy state kind of vote. And they really are still rather skeptical of the Republican Party. And I had said it would have been better for the Republicans if she had a home to go to. But it does look like she is finding common ground with the new right. Maybe not the whole Republican Party, but the new right. I'll tell you, if there was a bump for Mark Victor and Tulsi Gabbard, this gets out there, that kind of voter will move to Blake Masters. In a race as close as it is, Trafalgar's got it by 1 today. What's it called? Arizona High Point. The local media outlet there yesterday had it almost even with Mark Kelly at 42. Everyone now has got Mark Kelly right where we had him at like 46%, right? Here is where are you? Yeah, there it is. So we had Mark Kelly at 46. Now other people are having him even further down. That's an incumbent. And if Tulsi Gabbard is out there, and she just flatly endorsed Kari Lake. I mean, just so people know. Hold on. I'm getting there. Elections are won on the margins. And when elections are as close as they are, like we are seeing in the Senate race, even though Lake has a lead, it is, still pretty close, I would say. She's not winning in a blowout, not yet, although I think there was a potential for Lake to win the blowout. All right. We have her up 3.7. Trafalgar's got her up by 3. Insider Advantage has her up by 3. Fabrizio has her up by 4, I think it was. Some of these media polls are still giving Hobbs a tie or maybe even a Hobbs +1. it's, but then again, those same polls also have Kelly up still by, 6 to 8. That's just, folks, that's not going to happen. And we know it because this is what they did with Sinema early anyway, even though Sinema eventually lost the lead. This is what they did with Sinema. And this is what they did with Mark Kelly, his first go around. He was gonna beat McSally by 6-8 points. And that, of course, did not happen. All right. So let's remove this. Just to show you guys, this is an actual endorsement here. Tulsi Gabbard endorses Kari Lake. For too long, establishment leaders from both parties have sought to enrich themselves, play games, and build up their power while ignoring and even enabling the suffering of millions of hardworking Americans. And you know what? I don't know what I'm following Tulsi Gabbard. I don't follow her right now. Kari Lake is a leader who puts people first, is fighting for border security, energy independence, public safety, and other policies that actually make life better and more affordable for American people. Kari isn't afraid to call out the warmongering, elitist cabal of permanent Washington and the military-industrial complex, and their propagandists in the mainstream media. I look forward to supporting Kari Lake ahead of these critical midterm elections. This is a big deal. This is a big deal. I mean, I don't know how you don't say, I don't know how, maybe you don't understand the shifting of coalitions, but if you don't think it's a big deal, then you're missing how the new right is shifting the electorate. And by the way, when we see times of political realignment like this, that's when the polls, including myself, have a much harder time keeping up, okay? Because some people aren't really totally sure yet, or at least they're not open to admitting it right off the bat, but they're going to do it, all right? I do believe that this is something that's going to matter to some of those voters that may have seen the debate performance, thought Mark Kelly did a horrible job. Some of those young voters are already, we saw in our polling, did not like Mark Kelly. Even Trafalgar, by the way, he's got, we can find it right now. Hold on. For the Daily Wire poll, he's got, interesting that he finally broke up the age brackets like this. I think it's important. All right. Hold on. I'm going to have to share the other one because it didn't share the one I was sharing. Well, when I hit the link, it opened in a new one instead of. Hold on. Okay. I know we're running out of time. I just want to show this real quick. Okay. And let me make it bigger. Okay, here's Trafalgar's poll. Let me go down. Okay, age participation, first of all. Oh, that's white, male. Okay, I missed age. 18 to 24, he's starting to break them up. And I think that's the right thing to do. 7.6%, so almost 7%. We do 25 to 29, as you guys know. In district level polling, we may do 18 to 34, but very rarely. Right, 25 to 34, 12.9, 35 to 44, 14. He did 36%, 45 to 64, and 29, 65 plus. If we were 29, 65 plus, Masters may have taken the lead late, but we didn't. We made it a little bit less because we did feel like some of these younger voters are going to vote. Look at this. If the election for U.S. Senate were held today, for whom would you vote? He actually has Masters in a lead here with the 18 to 24 crowd. And then this 25 to 34 goes for Mark Kelly pretty heavily. Why do I think that is very possible that Blake Masters is doing much better with the 18 to 24? If you remember Virginia, Glenn Youngkin, he was like 4 points behind McAuliffe in the 18 to 29. If you looked, 18 to 24 was actually going for Youngkin and in fact did go for Youngkin. In our polling, it was going for Youngkin, and we were right. The 25 to 29, a little bit before the 34 he goes to here, was still a McAuliffe. And, I think some of that is these people haven't gone, maybe this 18 to 24 group, many of them still haven't gone to college and gotten advanced degrees or something like that. And, they're not the prime masters or higher, post-grad, advanced kind of age, and these people are. So, that's what we see. I really do think that that's entirely possible. Mark Kelly's winning the 35-44. Masters would have to do a little bit better with this group. But once he gets to 45 and above, Masters starts to take it. This, to me, is important because it represents to me a continuation of the trend to Masters with seniors that I saw. And that's why I said it was so important that he address Mark Kelly's attacks on him in Social Security, especially using inflation. Like, look, the real threat to Social Security is not me. I'm not going to cut away your Social Security. The real threat is actually Mark Kelly's votes for all of these inflation-causing bills, because inflation is going to eat away your Social Security check and your fixed income. That was the correct answer. What Masters needs to do here now is tighten this, and he'll take the lead. I mean, he will. If he tightens to 35-44, he will take the lead. The undecideds, they overwhelmingly disapprove of the job Joe Biden's doing. Sound familiar? That's the headline in this poll. That's the headline Robert Cahaly said. Look, out of the people that are undecided, it doesn't look by party. They are Republican and Republican leaning more than they're Democrat, even though Democrats are the biggest single group of undecideds. If you combine Republicans and Republican leaners, it's a bigger group. And then also, of those Democrats, many of them disapprove of the job Joe Biden is doing, in fact, voting for Kari Lake. So he has a better opportunity to win over these voters than Mark Kelly does. All right, Mark Kelly's going to get some. And by the way, he's only got Mark Victor at 2.7, about 0.7 of a percentage point above where we had him. So I feel more confident than ever after seeing a bunch of other polls being released that we are right about the Libertarians' vote share. And we are right about probably what happened with some of ththese polls, including Ohio Predictive, who prides themselves in surveying Arizona. They probably hit the more Metro Republican, Masters hater, and they are overrepresented, because 5% is the biggest number we have seen in any poll for the Libertarian candidate, outside of that one poll that showed him surging after the debate, in which he said that the age of consent is up for debate. Does that make any logical sense to any of you? It doesn't. So maybe he ticked up a little bit, but for the most part, I believe that this race is really, at this point, a coin toss. Yes, very, very close. And notice the spread with us and the spread with us and Trafalgar between the governor and the Senate is very, very, very similar. So, it's just a matter of ours was a little bit more, our electorate, we're projecting to be a little bit more Republican than Trafalgar is. And if he was like R plus one more, right? Because he's got it at, let me just show you. He's got it at basically R plus 4. Well, we had Arizona at R plus 5, and actually Rasmussen had it more and R plus 7. And I understand why they did, because people were telling Rasmussen, like they told us, well, I'm not a Democrat. And 5 to 7%, depending on the day. We know they are, in fact, are Democrats. By the way, you can see Kari Lake also taking the 18 to 24 vote here. She's just doing a little bit better with the 35 to 44, and she's certainly doing better with seniors. And that's the difference between Masters and her. Masters needs to win over the rest of those seniors who have warmed up to Lake now and are voting for Lake. Lake is also damn near even with the female vote, while she's winning the male vote overwhelmingly. And that sounds familiar, right, guys? I mean, education's not here. Very much wish it was, but it's not. You can also see that Blake Masters is doing just like our poll, not winning the white vote by as much as Kari Lake is. And that is also something we found. All right. Kari Lake, by the way, is damn near tied with Hispanics in this poll. We had her actually with the ability to carry Hispanics. And I think, honestly, some of this Asian and black number is a little too high. I don't think that's going to happen. But our black number was a lot lower. But our Hispanic number was bigger. So, but you know what? That's why I say, guys, subgroup errors are much higher. And look, by the way, we were talking about this with Kari Lake in an interview. She's carrying 12% of the Democratic vote. So I actually do believe that. That's where I was like building up to all of this. That look here, Kari Lake is doing well with this Democratic vote. That was even before Gabbard. That was before. Now, Masters is losing a big chunk of the Republican vote to Mark Kelly, and that is a problem, and he's got to stop that. He, however, has tied it up with independents. And Lake leads with independents in this poll. We have it tied with independents with Lake and Hobbs. We have Masters down with independents. But he is taking 9% of the Democratic vote. And now that you have Tulsi Gabbard out there stumping for him, I do think that this has at least the potential to be significant in some of these key races. All right. So if she finds a home for MAGA, then that's good. That's why, Casey, I got to yours and a couple of others. Of course, Friday will be much more, there'll be many more questions answered on Friday. But that's where we're at. All right. By the way, I saw the thing about what Washington Senate race. You guys should expect it to be close because Patty Murray only won 52% of the primary vote share. And primary vote share, as we said in the beginning, is extremely predictive of outcomes. David Byler now is admitting it. Patrick Basham had been trying to remind people of it. I have been trying to remind people of it. In the end, elections are decided by fundamentals. They're not really decided by news cycles. The news cycle is driven by the campaign, what the message is, and what really is going on. Most times, 9 out of 10, reality wins. All right. You have 1 in 10 where maybe, the production news wins, but 9 out of 10, reality wins. And Americans, you saw the economic confidence index looks horrible. The right track, wrong track probably is going to be historically negative again. So the bottom line is, there it is. Well, and just for Dave, I want to say this. How is Masters behind so much while Kari Lake is up so much? She's not up that much. She's up significantly. I pretty much think that, if Lake wins by 5, Masters is going to eke it out. Okay. If she wins he could eke it out even if she wins by less, but it would have to be close. He is losing some older Republican voters, and he's doing better with them now. You can see that in our polling and in some of the other polling, he's doing better. But we're going to be starting a whole new round. We're also exit polling Arizona, but that's, I don't want to get into that yet. But we will be pre-election polling Arizona starting this week. Again, it will run for a long time because we're tracking people who are actually voting and stuff. All right, but we'll see. We'll see. When it's that close, guys, it's close. So a Kelly +1 means nothing. It means nothing. In 2020, they didn't really overstate Trump's vote share. Understate his vote share all that much in Arizona toward the end, but they did leading up. Nobody thought it would be 0.2 of a percentage point. Go back and look at the polls that had Biden up. Only Emerson was close. The rest of them overstated Biden support, except for a few of us that overstated Trump support. And then, which admittedly we did, although I have my own ideas, right? But the bottom line is that if it was, Biden plus 0.2 of a percentage point and Kelly 2.5 points, 3 points in 2020, what's it going to be in 2022? All right. All right. But I do have a meeting coming up, so I got a boogie. All right. Stay tuned. Friday, we'll go into this poll in great detail, and we will dig through it. All right. All right, guys. As always, thanks for joining. We will see you soon on. There you go, Laura. Go ahead. Say it.
Say deuces.
Roam it. Oh, deuces, little man. And deuces to the rest of you. All right, thanks for watching. As always, you can follow me on Truth and Getter and Truth at People's Pundit, on Twitter at People's_Pundit. If you haven't already, don't forget to subscribe to the Locals channel, the People's Pundit Locals channel. To the People's Pundit Rumble channel. And if you're on YouTube still, when Rumble gets a little bit more, once I get off YouTube, Rumble goes down and people weren't able to view. But definitely want you guys to move over to Rumble and subscribe on Rumble. But if you're on YouTube, you might as well hit the like button and then subscribe, hit the notification bell. That'll let you know when we're going to go live. But the best place to follow me is right there, peoplespundit.locals.com. And you'll get a whole bunch of voter now. We had Georgia, we had Michigan. All right. So what does the voter file say? Right. We run the machine learning model on the voter file. What does it tell you? And how close is it to, how close is reality to what you're hearing from people and seeing from pollsters? It's always been an interesting metric that we have used, a helpful one, an accurate one. And it's not meant to project share of the vote, although it can sometimes. It's meant to give you an idea of what the electorate will look like. All right. All right. So with that in mind, we are going to bounce. We'll see you on. Laura, am I missing any no appearance between now and Friday?
I don't think so. We just have a lot of meetings.
Yeah, okay.
We have a lot
Good,
of
though, because we got a lot of polls to crunch, so it was like enough media appearances for now. But you can keep an eye on locals. If we do book one in the end here, then we will be sure to let you know. All right, especially the one that I sent to you. I'll tell you who it was, but it was kind of a big one. So I did give him the number and tell his producer to call you. All right. See you on Friday, folks, noon Eastern Standard Time. Thanks for watching Inside the Numbers.
How much you wanna bet that I can get you back inside your head before the summer ends and spread a little love. Just for a little fun, I'll make you come back to me before the rise of every sun. Baby, it's meant to be. I know you got a man, but he don't understand. You're gonna be a heartbreaker. You're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette. 'Cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah.
Welcome to Inside the Numbers with the People's Pundit. And now here's your host, Rich